Peace. This is James, and I'm going to do a quick reading on a chapter from Stanley Tookie Williams' book, co-founder of the Crips from Los Angeles. I'm going to do a reading from one chapter of his book, Chapter 31, which is Trials and Tribulations. And then I'm going to close out with my thoughts. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I was just on a platform with a brother, and I don't know if he just didn't understand what I was saying, and I understand what he was saying, but he seemed to take offense to me trying to tie history into the reasoning we are in this situation, or even something that even needs to be discussed. He said that he's not on the internet to try to solve anyone's problems or anything like that, which I get that. And I respectfully understand that. So once I got that understanding, I understand that we're on two totally different platforms as far as what I thought that the agenda was. And I'm glad that he clarified that. So now I know that I don't need to be over on his platform, because my what I'm dealing with is not just about constantly talking about old history, dealing with gang history, which is the most destructive part of my life. I want to deal with the solutions and the problem. So being as though that is his stance, and we stand clear on whichever stance that we both have. Now I can move forward and understand that that's not something that I need to be associated with. Not sure about Ked's platform, because I can just deal with the history part of it, but I don't have to deal with the lives. I only deal with history, because I think that history is fascinating, and it's very important to understand what we're dealing with today. Now, for me, from what I get and gather from gangs, it's just a word. Gang is a demonization of tribalism. And that's what a lot of our people don't want to deal with, or either they don't understand how Europeans demonize your culture or demonize something that may be of benefit to you. So tribalism can be a curse, and it can be a benefit to a people if used properly. And I don't think, a lot of our people understand that. But I don't want to be too long-winded, because I have to read this chapter. And then when I read this chapter, I'm going to get to a certain part, and I'm not sure if I'm going to read the whole chapter, but I think it may be relevant for me to read the chapter. But I really want to just edit out a particular part on it, but I think maybe it might be in context. So that's the reason why I want to read the whole chapter. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen and get right into it. Hold on a second. Okay, so give me a second here. Get set up. But this is Blu-rays Black Redemption by Stanley Tookie Williams. I think it's a book that if you a street person, or a person that's been in a gang, or what we call a tribe, or you're a warrior from in America that's been in any type of street culture, whether it be Bloods, Crips, GDs, Vice Lords, folks, or any of the smaller gangs that we go by, Zopound, or whatever gang that you may be, or tribe, or you may be affiliated with. This book right here is an excellent book to gain an understanding of what's going on here in America and why we doing what we doing. The brother, he attempted in this book, I noticed that some people try to denote because a European woman had some influence, so that, or may have had some influence in the writing of the book for political reasons, but I won't get into that, because the particular names that I really want to highlight, and that I have highlighted, are what I'm really going to be focused on, because he's going to tell you the key to fixing this whole problem. So let me go ahead and read this chapter, or read up at least to where I want to stop at, and then I'll close out with my thoughts on the reason why history is important to understand the gang culture that we're dealing with, and how to solve what we're dealing with as a people, period. All right, so peace. So So this the chapter 31, Trials and Tribulations by Stanley Tookie Williams. It was foolish of me to believe that my grandmother would live forever, but I felt the same about my stepfather, Fred Hollywell, who died in 1988. I remember listening to this one strong, proud black man who was now dying of cancer. He whispered in quivering tones that tore in my heart. Tookie, called the police. Somebody's breaking into the house. Hearing him made me cringe in despair. I could do absolutely nothing for this man who had so often helped me. Though Fred wasn't my biological father, he was the paternal fixture in my life, a man I would always call upon in times of trouble or need. After hearing of his death, I scratched out on the mattress, on the floor, on the cell, and visualized my own personal eulogy about him. It wasn't his real son, but Fred did. I wasn't his real son, but Fred did for me what he'd do for any of his 4 children. He tried desperately to protect me from mistakes growing up and from the racist system of the law and an impossible aspiration for any black man. The best thing I could say about Fred is that he loved my mother and was always there for her. And for that, I give him high praise. His impact on my life is forever etched in my mind. Rest in peace, my father. On occasion, the inevitable question, why me, came to me. I wondered how this crooked cycle of misfortune could be revised. For years, I obliged this system designed to destroy me. Clearly, as long as I continued functioning out of criminal intent, the robotic let me go flip the page. It says clearly, as long as I continued functioning out of criminal intent and robotic stupidity, I'd be assisting the system with its destructive intent. Later, I'd learn that to buck the awful conditions with my past. It says later, I learned that to buck the awful conditions with my passive agenda would only trigger efforts to discourage me. As a guard once told me, you're here only to die. There's enough intrigue here in prison to put the Central Intelligence Agency to shame. I was not shocked when the classification committee lowered my status to grade B along with Ghetto, who was figured as one of my bodyguards. Just weeks earlier, the staff had converted part of East Block's second tier to serve as a lockup for grade B condition prisoners. When Ghetto and I arrived, Evil Tretch and a few others were already housed on the tier. Though we weren't allowed any weights on the exercise yard, it felt good being around Crip allies. Excuse me. This won't be long because what I'm talking about is on the next page, but I want to give context to what he was saying before I get to that part. Okay, so I was housed in a cell adjacent to Evil, which enabled our continued conversations. I recall him talking about his black actor, Philip Michael Thomas, who had mentioned during a radio interview a book entitled Parallel Psychology of the I don't know what this word is, Geta. Evil Tretch and I obtained a copy of the book. Though it didn't alter my life as a thought it might. It said, although it didn't, let me go back. It says, although it says as though obtaining a copy of the book, though it didn't alter my life as I thought it might, it did cause me to challenge my own stance on personal thoughts, behavior, and the conditions around me. But I was still torn between my fealty to cripping and my and becoming a new being. Did Buddha, Raymond, Mac Thomas, Odie, and all the rest die in vain? I was embarking upon a task that had broken other men when they altered the course of their lives. A stumbling block was the shallow concern of how other Crips would view my change. So see, this is what he's talking about. He's talking about the same thing that just happened in this show. He was conflicted because people that was just on Cripping wouldn't understand the change that he was going through as far as altering his thought process about a whole bunch of things that he once believed in. And that's exactly what just happened on that show. They didn't understand that I had the change that I'm trying to get them to understand that we need to make so that we can all be on the same accord. But let me continue to read right here. It says, a stumbling block was shallow concerns to how other Crips would view my change. I say I wasn't interested in what my peers thought of me that would be a lie. See, so he's saying to say that he wasn't interested in what other people would think of him would be a lie. I wasn't about to lower my convictions, though I was no longer an impulsive reactionary. I was neither a pacifist nor would I turn the other cheek if physically threatened. The natural do or die instinct of self-defense is a reality I'll forever adhere to. Still, the scariest thing to me was life after Cripping and the idea of developing a conscience to counter the injustices of my own ignorance. So see, this is just so profound that what he's saying right here, because he's getting ready to transition out of being just a pure Crip or having a Crip ideology to having an ideology of African nationalism first. And that's what the people that are on that particular show don't understand, the passion and what you're going to have once you get this. So let me continue. In 1989, I received a court order for a Los Angeles County child custody hearing for my son, Stan. When I arrived at High Power, I was placed on B row. Around the corner on A row was Evil, who had been called down by Cato's attorney months earlier. The following day, Evil reached out to me with a huge plastic bag filled with food, personal care items, and books. Although I was unable to see him or Cato, we communicated through the wall vent and an improvised telephone. Over the years of traveling back and forth to the Los Angeles County, I ran into Crazy D, Timmy Tucker, Animal, Big Bam, and Little Killer. Other than strolling down Crip Memory Lane with them, I found solace in having Animal test me on numerous words, and I returned the favor. Shackled and seated in the Los Angeles courtroom, I saw my stepfather, Dimitri, there. I hadn't seen her. I seen my stepsister, Demetrius, there. I hadn't seen her in nearly a decade. I had hoped to see my son, who I hadn't seen since 1979. Finally, the judge entered the room, sat shuffling papers for a few minutes, and then scheduled my hearing for an unspecific date, since neither my son nor his mother, Beverly, was present. I was still shell shocked from being in Los Angeles County Jail in 1979 through 1981. Before my departure, Evil hollered through the vent to ask if I wanted to stand down there a little longer. Well, if I wanted to stay down there a little longer. I shot back, no way, cuz I'm ready to split. Even though I was in good company with Evil and other Crips, I wanted out of there, and sooner wasn't quick enough. And this is the chapter. This is the last paragraph that I think I will read, and I may go on. Let me see. But this is what I wanted to clarify. It says, arriving back at San Quentin through no delight, it was better than being in the county jail. In East Block, I was housed in a couple of cells from Tretch. Soon he started sending me books by authors such as Chancellor Williams, which I showed on the show, Roanoke Rashidi, which is another LA native, Danita R. Red, I'm not familiar with that queen, Shake Out the Diop, Francis West Wilson, which is another book I showed, Dr. Joseph Ben Yohanan, Dr. A.J. Rogers, Ivan Van Sertima, John Henrik Clarke, and many more. All of these particular teachers are teachers that I was trying to convey to the audience that on the show. Now, if this is about gang culture and Crips, I think that these names are important because Tookie mentions these names as a pathway to us trying to straighten out the behavior that we're dealing with. So with that said, let me go ahead and continue out this particular paragraph. These writers help reveal the truth about the history of our people, of our culture. The more I read, the more I discovered the contradiction in myself and in the world I thought I knew. Let me go ahead. Let me continue on. Somewhere I read, nothing remains the same and everything changes. My change will be inevitable to the vindictive and Marmaric staff and others who preferred I remain fuselized in the amber of see if I have to turn the change Crip legacy. So he's saying Europeans wanted him wouldn't want nothing more for him to do than to stay an ignorant brother, just dealing with just this Crip history, besides learning the true history and learning about who the true enemy is of his people and fighting for that. I won't go any further on in this because that's just pretty much all I really wanted to convey. Now, the reason why they didn't want him to learn that history is because that history involves them. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and switch to that page so y'all can see that for yourself. Hold on. And let me blow it up a little bit. Now, this is the particular paragraph that I just read. I want to have that on record so that y'all can see that these are not my words per se. And the reason why I'm so passionate about the history, because this is the instruction that the founder of the Crips left for us. These are instructions from our ancestor. And this is what he left for us as a blueprint to change the behavior of our people. So that's the importance of the history, man. I'm very disappointed that people don't want to try to fix our problems. And that's what it seemed like is going on. I didn't know that wasn't what the mission was until that was stated. And I'm disappointed in that being not being the mission for our people. So, man, I'm not going to make this long. I meant no disrespect to that brother. I just got a passion for our people, and I got a passion for truth, And I got the same passion that Tookie, Brother Melly Mel, and a lot of the other brothers in their 50s have for us using this history to retain some type of unity that we know about, that we once seen before all this shit got in a disarray. I love y'all, man, and I would never do anything to disrespect my people or my ancestors. With that said, peace.